So, hi everyone, welcome to today's episodes for the Leicester Politics Society. This is me, your president Zaid Patel, and today we have got a special guest with us, Dr. Ashok Swain. So, he's a professor and head of the Department of Peace and Conflict Research at Uppsala University. He's also the UNESCO Chair of International Water Cooperation and the Director of Research, School of International Water Cooperation at Uppsala University, Sweden. A founding editor-in-chief for the Environment and Security Journal published by Sage. He also writes a weekly column, Right is Wrong, for Dubai-based Gulf News. Also worked as a consultant on environmental and development in agencies such as UN, Oxfam, and Arab League. So thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing your time today and your views as well.
Thank you for having me.
Would like to start with the first question on your views on because you've been in Sweden for a long time, very long time, and you did your PhD and then moved back to Uppsala. It's been quite a while now. So what do you think on the environmental progressivism in Sweden, and what could other countries around the world and India learn about from it?
Thank you. I've been living in Sweden for more than 33 years. I left India 91, and I think Sweden is well known for many things. Despite being a small country, it's a newly rich, unlike UK, but it has developed in many ways, industrially, economically. And its a social security system is one of the world's top one. And it used to be also a country of neutrality during the Cold War. It has never been to war for 200 years, more than 200 years. So there are a number of things which is Sweden looks it itself as some sort of moral superpower, despite having a population. When I came here, population was 8 million. Now it's 10 million. But with that small population, it has a voice of that nature. In that aspects, environment plays a very important role in the Swedish calculation of playing a moral power. Sweden, or that time Prime Minister Olof Palme, organized the first World Conference on Environment and Development. If you remember, you don't, but 1972, that's 52 years back, this conference was organized. And then, all these Rio, all these things which are coming up, it's just last 2022, there's a 50-year celebration was here in Sweden. And that also brought the UNEP, the conference in 72. It was actually one of the major world leader was Indira Gandhi from India was here, and that time she also talked about how poverty is the important factor, and that become the major theme of the third world countries to say that the poverty, unless you deal with the poverty, you will not deal with the environment. So the history is long. The UNEP was created after that. The Sweden really gave the incentive for the country. Sweden started an environment ministry, and other countries had the environment ministry. And Sweden has the environment is part of this constitutional obligation, which is not unlike many others. I'm starting a project with the Japanese researchers, trying to compare Japan as well as with Sweden on the environmental issues. And so, if you look at the Japanese constitution, which was immediately done in post-Cold War, post-Second World War period, environment is not part of it, but they have not put the environment. But I think that's why they are looking at how whether it makes any difference if you have environment as part of it or not. So I think saying that, in many ways, Sweden has been good in environmental protection, environmental management, like take, for example, 1972, 1960s and 70s is the paper and pulp industry, which was creating huge water pollutions and others. Now the paper and pulp industry is producing 6 times, 7 times more, but the water pollution has gone down to almost zero. So it's a big difference. The water level anywhere you can really drink it. In some of even there are places near Stockholm you can just take the water from the source and drink it. On that level, it's fine. That's going on well. I think they do education-wise, environmental education within the education system at the school levels are extremely well formulated. Kids are almost, in many ways, not only classroom education, but also how the outside activities. The environment is also a big part of the college curricula, the environment university things. And then I think I used to be the director of Center for Sustainable Development 15 years back in this Uppsala, and that was you can see there is a number of young people those who are encouraged to really create courses on basis of environment. So that has been a kind of landmark on that, a benchmark. Swedish universities and Swedish education system doing environment, but things have changed. I think there are also, like anywhere in the world, the politics has changed. The environment has become a very different issue. There is no environment minister since last year. There is a new government in Sweden. There is no environment minister. Sweden, which gave the environment minister to the rest of the world, doesn't have an environment minister now. Sweden, which has given a huge, like you have heard Greta Thunberg and others, there's a youth movements. Yes, it is, but I think the same Greta was been also very much criticized when she took up the issue of Palestine. So everyone knows when there is a war is being fought, the environment will not be a major factor. And Sweden decided to join NATO. And Sweden is a big supporter of also the war which is going on in Ukraine and Russia's war on Ukraine. You expect Sweden to take a part to peacemaking, try to convince people to the negotiating table, not to giving this war slogans and the fighting wars and joining itself in the NATO, even making compromises with Erdogan and the Orban type of people. So that has been, and I think that makes me, and also look at it, what is happening. I recently wrote a piece on the Sami population in the northern part of Sweden. Sami population is, of course, dispersed all through the Nordic countries and even Russia. The areas they have been exploited for a long period of time, particularly when the hydropower dams were built in the 60s, 70s. There are areas which they live and their reindeer herding places, they have been taken away. 80% of their land has been taken away for building dams. And now they are trying to find some metals or minerals where they can really build these batteries, and the European Union policy of moving from the strategic minerals from the Africa and China to Europe, and that's what they find in the same areas which the Sami population live. So, and this is the present way that they want to explore that for mining, and there is no discussion. And these are the things I think you bring it that Sweden, which used to be at the top of the environmental advocacy, environmental politics, environmental management inside the country, and helping others to do it, is getting into a place, or has gone into a place for the last few years, that there are big questions marks are being raised. It's about its intention, about its ambitions, and about its real commitment to environment or not. So I think if you want the people to learn about or to learn from Sweden, I don't think they should look at now. They should look at probably 80s, 90s, that period. Not the new Sweden. Probably the old Sweden was much better on environment. Not probably, I am 100% sure the old Sweden was much better on environment. Now the so-called new Sweden.
Water resources have been key to your research and advocacy as well. Considering India's complex relationships with its neighbors like Pakistan, China, Bangladesh, what are your insights or suggestions? How does India or like any other country navigate on its border and potential water conflicts as well?
You see, still India is not water scarce, or the South Asian countries. I think probably the water scarce country will be Pakistan, because Pakistan is like Egypt most of the time. I mean, not Egypt has less rain, but Pakistan has a bit more rain. But Pakistan is dependent very much on one single river system, which it doesn't control. It comes from the Indian side mostly. Whereas India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, they do have plenty of water. Till at least in the part of India has quite a huge amount of water still. The question is management has been, and who controls the water? That has been the main issue. And they have been always putting the emphasis on the supply side, how to increase the supply side, how to build big dams, how to build big reservoirs, how to create the big hydropower stations, but not to decrease the water use, because demand side they haven't been done. And I think in this politics, in the South Asian water politics, you see the India used to be the, or continues to be large extent, the what you call it, hydro hegemon, which means it controls most of the, because of its powerful geographical and political and military situation in the area. And that has been going on for a long time. But what is new is that India's same domination politically, strategically, and water-wise, hydrologically, are not, I mean, same positions do not remain same now. They have been all challenged, and they have been all challenged. Pakistan has been challenging it to some number of extent before, but the others were trying to be coping with the Indian preference. Even the agreements which have been signed with Nepal in the post-independence period, India's post-independence period, they have been pro-India in many ways. Even 96 agreement on the between India and Bangladesh on Ganges and Faraka, that has been also signed, which is because India is just diverting some of the water before reaching Bangladesh. Even the India-Bhutan agreements on hydropower, Bhutanese think that it has been supporting India mostly. Because India uses most of this hydropower. So there has been India's domination has been there. But India's domination is not, doesn't remain the same, because China has been playing a major political role and economic role in the South Asia now. And that has really given these smaller countries or the other South Asian countries some sort of avenues to resist in a way which is because of the China factor, mostly because they are resisting it. So that has created uncertainty for India's plan or India's way of managing the water, which they have been used to use the water on their way. Another thing which has happened is, besides the climate change is another, but I'm just talking about the politically and economic. China, which used to be not interested in Tibetan water resources because it was not developed. It didn't, I mean, of course, China is water scarce in the northern part of it, and China never wanted to have that kind of resources to think of taking the Indian side of Tibetan water to there. But China has changed. China has dramatically changed. China has started building on the Brahmaputra upstream 4 dams. China has also built 2 medium dams in the Indus upstream. China is many ways also building or supporting dam buildings in Pakistan, in Nepal side. So this also bring that China has become a player in the water management. And that gives, when India has been a hydrohegemon for a long time, and if China has come into the game, I mean, the match or football field, then of course China has the upper hand. So I think in this context, how India should act, because India, I think, I mean, I'm just talking about hydrostrategic wise. Other factors are, we all know, you need better water management, you need a better negotiation, you need a better, I mean, those are the better in water institution, better taxing, all these things. And that all know. But I think this is some things which more important is that how you really, your hydro strategic system should be cope with it. And I think they are, rather than pushing the individual countries in South Asia, either side with us or either side with China, I think it's a good part is this, if they really work together with Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh and create a certain kind of South Asia water framework, on those 4 countries, you can negotiate better with China. And within these 4 countries, within the sub-basin level, India will be the hydrohegemon, but India can only challenge China on whatever plan it has on the upstream, if it has Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh with it. Forget Pakistan for the sake. So if Pakistan also the Indus side. So in this case, I think I have been advocating that for ages, and that has not been happening. The one side, other side, which I have, the Indus side. Indus side, look, India, Pakistan has signed an agreement in 1960. The World Bank says it's a very good agreement. I have been saying always that it's not a water agreement. I say it's a divorce settlement or a borders agreement, because it is actually a partition has taken place. You give 3 rivers to Pakistan, 3 rivers to India. They don't really cooperate over water. It's just Indian water, sorry, Pakistani water, which is going from the Indian controlled Kashmir. India cannot even build the proper dams and stuff like that. Because and that part is understandable, because there is no trust, there is no cooperation. But imagine if there is a proper trust and proper cooperation. Pakistan is suffering from the massive floods every other year since 2010. India has a perfect place to build dams, or Indian controlled Kashmir has a perfect place to build the dams. You can really build the dams in the Kashmir side, and you can really control keep the water when there is a flood control will help. And in the summertime, you can give the electricity and all these things, and that will be. But that is not working, and this is where the problem comes. And this is where there was an Abu Dhabi dialogue you might have heard, and started in 2006. I was the one who wrote the concept paper that time. I wrote, because that time India-Pakistan relationship was better. I think you remember that 2007 was supposedly been a negotiated settlement for Kashmir. So that time I advocated that we need a Indus 2 agreement, because Indus 1 agreements, 1960 agreement, has fulfilled its that the countries are not going to fighting war for the water, but it is not a water agreement. It doesn't really help the water issues to countries. So I thought that if there will be an Indus 2 agreement, where they do really bring up how to cooperate, and also, if possible, I have been advocating the China and Afghanistan to be part of it in any way, either as an observer or something you can put them. And this is where it would be much better. But this is the I mean, hydrologically, it will be better to have these 4 countries joining with the cooperation in a proper way. But that won't happen. We know that, because there is a problem. There is a problem of lack of trust, particularly between India and China. And when you combine people like China, yes, India and Pakistan, and you combine people like China and Afghanistan with them, so it's one of the most difficult area. So, but Indus water, and considering the importance of Indus water, particularly for Pakistan, as well as for the bread basket of India, it is very important. And when the climate change is taking place in this way, they need to find ways how to cooperate with the Indus water. You cannot continue just treat the water as a partition scheme. You have to cooperate, and that's what is not happening.
Just the last question for this online interview as well. There's a lot of narrative set out in the Indian media saying that, okay, the current alliance or the India bloc has sort of no chance against the current BJP government. So what are your thoughts on that? Like, what sort of setback would it be to the Indian democracy if the opposition cannot sort of like put a good fight towards the BJP as well?
It's a sad story of Indian democracy, Indian secularism. There was hope that opposition will come together, fight a battle, at least to save, if not to save themselves. It would, if not to save Indian democracy or secularism, at least to save themselves. I mean, they're just being wiped out from all over. That's not very, I mean, if they really defeat BJP or somehow create a situation like 2004, nothing is going to change much, because the Indian politics has become so much segmented, as well as the divide, hate, bigotry. Those have gone into the Indian political discourse and political mobilization. I have very much doubt, even if you keep, or the Indian alliance, I doubt it very well, but if there is, you can never believe, you can never know 100%. If they really move or form a government for a few months or a few years, that's not going to change Indian character now. I mean it needs a very solid mandate for a long period of time to really come back to India's certain kind of, say, democratic and secular character, which it used to have. India was not a perfect place for democracy and secularism, but at least what it had. And living together, not to really openly advocating the hate and bigotry for the people, and not to have a majoritarianism as the benchmark of the success, political success. So those are the things. If and most likely, if Modi wins and a majority which is like last time or a bit bigger than that, or even majority of some sort, I do doubt very much that the Indian democracy will survive. You see, look, Russia has also elections. North Korea has also elections. Elections are everywhere. But so elections should not be the benchmark of a democracy or a democracy, functioning democracy. You and I, your political science students, you know that how that works. Democracy, where the other institutions, key institutions, need to be there. Nothing is working in India. The kind of actions, the kind of measures they have been taking, where you would not expect the election commission, the Supreme Court, the even military. There are some other. I mean, every key institutions are either accepting it or even become a party to it, and that's where the problem lies. That whether but what will happen if they win? India has become, in each and every practical respect, has become a Hindu country. Was a Hindu country, but is a Hindu country, or it become more Hindu country now in the last 10 years, or more profoundly all practical purposes a Hindu country. It has made other minorities, particularly Muslim, as a second-class citizen, unofficially second-class citizen. What will happen now if Modi comes back to power and the RSS thinks that this is possibly the last chance for them? India will be in the constitutionally will be declared as a Hindu theocratic state, and that is most likely. There will be also very less likely that we will see the India going for multi-party election system. It will be one-party election system like we saw in Bangladesh recently. So this is going to happen, and there is no one can. It is the process has been there, and then I don't think. Let me tell you another thing which I find might be controversial, because Indians don't know how to fight. Indians are very bad at fight. Means I'm not talking fighting war, protesting. And then India has become very rule abiding country, or the state, whatever the state says, and the media has totally collapsed. Indian media has become a joke. I never thought that Indian media will reduce to that kind of a joke. So so I wish I could tell something that with much more hope, but the India doesn't give me hope, to be honest, anymore. And it will be, everybody says that, things will move better always. Yes, when things move, some people work for it. Some people fight for it. Some people sacrifice for it. And if you don't do it, don't think that the whole process will just move otherwise. So I think I do not see that kind of commitment. People, those who maybe that they can really work. So that's my concern, that how to get out of this situation. I'm not really. Almost an atheist. I don't believe in miracles, but I'm hoping for a miracle in this election to happen, that India should survive as a country which I used to love, I still love, and a country where I grew up as a democratic secular country. These are the two things, because if these two factors, and why I'm putting this focus on, if India doesn't remain as a democratic, as a secular country, India will not survive as a country. And that's my concern, that India will not survive without these two characters.
Just a very short comment, because you said India wouldn't survive as a country. It might become a Hindu theocratic state as well. What exactly is your concern? Is that is it because if it won't be a secular country, is there a possibility of foreign invasions as well?
No, no foreign invasion is taking place. It's the self explosion. That's what will be. Because Indian project, which started in 1947, it's a new project. India might be an old civilization, but it's a new country. It's only 70 or whatever, 77 years old country. It's not a big, very old country as a country formation wise. And how you see the basics of it has been formed on the basis of democracy and secularism and scientific nature. And if you take those away, you create a Hindu theocratic, bring in Manu Bad and others to run the constitution, take out that fantastic constitution India had, you are in real trouble, because the whole basis of the India project, which started in 1947, particularly after the division of the country, you just completely destroy it. And take for situation, India is of course, Muslim population is only 15%, but that 200 more million Muslims live in India. A country with 200 million population, forget about the Christians, forget about the Sikhs, forget about the Dalits, forget about the tribal, those are the other big characters. But imagine the 200 million Muslims, you immediately turn them to constitutionally second-class citizen. And nowhere in the world it can work. It will become an apartheid state. And apartheid states do not last long. As we have seen in South Africa, we see now how the Israel-Palestine exploding, and we will see everywhere. So we don't make a country an apartheid state.
Well, let's just hope that there's no more erasure of history as well. Yeah. We hope the India project survives. So it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Dr. Ashok, and thank you for turning up. For all the online viewers who might be viewing this program, please do check out his articles as well and his Twitter handle. It's a pleasure reading his articles. So thank you so much for turning up, and hope to see you someday soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you.